What is going on, guys? Welcome back. My name is Wolfe Glick, and today I am here to walk you guys through a very interesting Pokemon introduced in Generation 7. This is a Pokemon called Toxapex. It's got a lot of really unique characteristics about it, and though it's not necessarily the most common Pokemon at the moment, it definitely has some uses. So, what do you need to know about Toxapex if you're looking to use it in VGC17? First of all, its typing. It's basically same typing as Tentacruel. Not basically, it is the exact same typing as Tentacruel. Water and poison typing, meaning that it's weak to ground, electric, psychic. That might be it, actually. Yeah, I think just ground, electric, and psychic, unless I'm missing something obvious. And then it has a really cool ability called Merciless, which says if the opponent is already affected by a poison or badly poisoned condition, all of the Pokemon's attacks will automatically become critical hits. It also has access to Limber, not that useful, but it does have access to Regenerator, which is a really useful ability in VGC on bulky Pokemon, such as Toxapex. So, with that in mind, let's just go ahead and look at Toxapex. Another really unique thing about Toxapex is this move, Baneful Bunker. It's exactly like Protect, to my understanding, unless they've done something weird with it. It's exactly like Protect, but if the target who attacks into Toxapex uses a contact move on Toxapex, it will become afflicted with the poison condition, which is really good when you consider that it has the Merciless ability. So, yeah, in terms of move pool, it's actually relatively limited. It gets Wide Guard and some other, it has a decent amount of special attacks, and some other cool moves like Frost Breath and Infestation, but not a lot of egg moves. But the real thing about Toxapex is it has insane defensive stats, and then really low HP and really low offensive stats and a low speed stat. So when I was looking at this definitely, I don't think is going to be the most viable Pokemon, but the cool thing about Pokemon as a game is that depending on where the metagame goes and how it develops, niche Pokemon like Toxapex can sometimes have a place. So I don't think Toxapex is going to be an all-star, to tell you the truth. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Facebook is open. I can't do anything about it. I'm really sorry because it's my other window. We're just going to be okay. Sorry about it. Anyway, yeah, Toxapex is definitely a unique Pokemon. I apologize for Facebook, and I think that it definitely has a place somewhere in the metagame at some point. I don't know when or where that's going to be, but these EVs didn't update. This should be 60. This should be 196. Sorry, guys. I ran more calcs, and I changed the EVs. So basically, here's my first Toxapex EV spread. I'm giving it Black Sludge because of its huge defensive stats. The idea is that if something isn't hitting Toxapex for super effective damage, it's probably not going to be doing a ton of damage. So I've given it the Merciless ability because of Baneful Bunker and Sludge Bomb, but you don't have to use Merciless. You could also use Regenerator. I don't personally recommend Limber. I think the other abilities are better. Baneful Bunker, Wide Guard, Scald, and Sludge Bomb. So the general idea with this set is that it's very bulky, so it's hard to get rid of. It can spread burns and poisons with Baneful Bunker and Sludge Bomb, and it gets Wide Guard for support to stop moves like Discharge, Earthquake, and other stuff. And yeah, Eevee's just trying to maximize overall bulk. So these are what the EVs are for. You can see that Shadow Bone for max attack, Thick Club, Marowak has a 1.2% chance to 2-hit KO, which is really incredible. Scald, as you can see, is not going to do a lot in return. So I think that when we're discussing a Pokemon like this, it's fair to give you guys the whole picture. I'm not just going to hype up this Pokemon just because I think it's cool, because it is a cool Pokemon, but damage output is not phenomenal. There's a Sludge Bomb versus Tapu Koko. You can see Thunderbolt does not 2-hit KO. It's not a no-KO, which is nice. If you put this, I personally recommend pairing Toxapex with a Grassy Terrain Mon. So with Black Sludge and Grassy Terrain, you can see this does a lot less. Yeah, but it's still most likely going to 2-hit KO unless they get a low roll from Max Special Attack, Timid, Tapu Koko, Thunderbolt. So Sludge Bomb will do a decent chunk in return. If it gets poisoned, that's also good, but you shouldn't be relying on it for damage. And unfortunately, even though Toxapex is 4 times super effective damage versus Tapu Bulu, it still doesn't KO with Sludge Bomb, and you can see Woodhammer actually does a fair amount of damage in return. So yeah, but okay, keep in mind that I've calced the most extreme cases. I've calced some of the strongest attacks in the format, and so odds are that I'll show you more about this later, but most Pokemon aren't going to be doing these huge hits. And Toxapex's real goal is kind of just to sit around against the bulkier stuff. It's kind of like a wall breaker, except that it doesn't break Celesteela because it's still susceptible to Leech Seed. But it beats Porygon 2 because it just outdamages it and it can poison it, especially if you're on Toxic, because we'll touch on that later, especially on this next set. This is the next set I have. I've used a Citrus Berry and Regenerator here because the idea here is definitely more of a support role. A Toxic and Venom Drench you can switch out with Wide Guard and Wide Guard and Venom Drench, like Toxic Venom Drench, Wide Guard, all those moves can be used in these slots here, just depending on what your team needs. Venom Drench is a really cool move that we never see ever. It lowers the attack, special attack, and speed of a poison foe by 1 stage. It's not the best move because you need them to be poisoned for it to actually do anything. But with a Pokemon like Toxapex, which has multiple ways of, this could also be Sludge Bomb, so you could have like literally 3 ways of poisoning a Pokemon. Yeah. But anyway, with a Pokemon like Toxapex, who is capable of poisoning Pokemon, I think you could test Venom Drench if you want to explore some unorthodox options. So Eevee's here, because I have Citrus Berry, I've opted for more Special Bulk to try and avoid more of the OHKOs. So you can see here, this is Timid, Tapu Lele, Psychic. So Modest will pick up the KO, but this is in Psychic terrain. So with Grassy terrain and a Citrus Berry, you actually will not even 2 KO. So that's one of the reasons why I recommend Tapu Bulu as a partner to Toxapex, because it can help Toxapex hang around for a while longer, and also if Toxapex switches out, it gains a third of its HP back, and because of diminishing marginal returns, I believe that's applicable here. Toxapex is really low base HP, so even though its defenses are high, like each point of HP is worth a lot more than say gaining like a point in defense or special defense. So if you're able to recover that HP with Regenerator, it could be very good. And as you can see, this is Life Orb, Tapu Koko, Thunderbolt in electric terrain. So it does have a 31.3% chance to OHKO, but if you put this in grassy terrain, or if you remove the Life Orb, like, it's going to be doing a lot less damage, like significantly less. Citrus, where's Citrus? Sorry guys. Yeah. So you can see, like, you can reduce their damage output a lot. And then lastly, I want just to show you guys kind of like what, like, Toxapex in my mind is built to beat Pokemon like Porygon 2 and Pokemon like that, where their Tri-Attack, like for example, Porygon 2 Tri-Attack, and this is just a random spread, so like we don't know necessarily like what EVs they're gonna run, but it's never gonna do a ton of damage. Even with max special attack, you can see it's doing like 25%. So yeah, Toxic is really good versus Porygon 2. If Porygon 2 is a problem for your team, you could actually consider running Toxapex. And then lastly, okay, so I kind of was like, I need a third set, and so I kind of just made something up. And so I came up with this set, but then I started running Calcs, and I was like, wait, this set might actually be good. It might actually be good, because basically, Toxapex has really, really, really low special attack. Offensive stats in general. Its offensive stats are really nothing to boast about, and so because of that, it never does any damage. But because its defenses are already so high, you don't really need to invest a ton to still remain relatively bulky. And so if you invest in special attack instead of investing in your defensive stats, you can actually make a big difference in the calcs that you're doing. So just to give you guys some ideas, the reason why we're Modest Nature, even though you get a lot more like physical points by putting a defensive nature, is you need this is your best bet with Expert Belt. It still doesn't even KO 25% of the time on no bulk, or I guess 4 special defense, guard chomp, whatever. Okay, that's different, but you can see it doesn't even always OHKO, and depending on the spread it could do less, but that's Ice Beam, which is pretty convincing in my opinion. Then I ran Sludge Bomb versus Tapu Bulu, and I was like, wow, that actually does a lot. And in return, Woodhammer will KO. Oh, this is no HP. Woodhammer will not KO. Woodhammer will not KO. Woodhammer will not KO. Ever. Unless they have a boosting item, but they might not. So, or they probably won't. And, yeah, that's pretty convincing because, you want your Toxapex. You want a 4-time super effective move to be OHKOing most of the time, so it's nice that Sludge Bomb finally does that with this investment, and actually, it even KOs Tapu Koko, which I wasn't expecting at all. And I didn't even calc for this. This is just the way that it works out. I wonder. Yeah, okay, I guess you could go a little bit less if this calc wasn't important to you, but you do less versus Garchomp, probably. I need to double check that. So, Sludge Bomb is going to do a lot to Tapu Koko. As you can see, Thunderbolt will do a lot in return. Guaranteed OHKO with Life Orb, but even if you just remove terrain, they're going to be doing a lot less. So that's, I think this is why I think Grassy Terrain is such a good partner for Toxapex, because partially, not only does it remove the opponent's terrain boost, but it also helps Toxapex stick around. So I also want to know how much this does versus Marowak. It doesn't KO, but it does a lot more than the first calc we saw with Marowak did. So, and keep in mind, guys, none of this factors in critical hits. Like, if any of these moves are crits, if any of these moves are crits, they're going to be doing a lot more damage. So, if for example, let's say they have a Marowak and they're like, okay, I got this, and they Shadow Bone into you, and then you go Baneful Bunker and they're poisoned, all of a sudden your Skull is going to be doing a ton of damage. So, yeah. I think that's pretty much why I think Toxapex would be good. In terms of partners, so Toxapex is fun because you can use Spotlight, and so you can Spotlight your partner, which means that any moves will be redirected into Baneful Bunker. You only want to Spotlight yourself if you go Baneful Bunker the same turn. Definitely a gimmick, but really fun, especially if they have physical Pokemon in the field. Like if you know they have physical Tapu Koko and Marowak, and you go I guess it wouldn't make any sense. I don't know. There are some situations in which I think you can Spotlight your partner. Definitely a gimmick. I don't recommend this as the top VGC strategy, but in terms of just having fun and like in terms of messing around and maybe having like some niche uses, I definitely think Spotlight is a fun partner for a move like Baneful Bunker, where you can force the opponent to target into you. Also redirecting Fake Outs, although Fake Out's not super huge at the moment. But yeah, Spotlight plus Baneful Bunker is really fun. You can poison both and gain a free turn at the cost of giving up Toxapex's protecting for a turn. But other than that, it's not bad. I also would recommend Crocodile because Toxapex benefits a lot from Intimidate because it's already so bulky. That it can really change calcs, especially if you have an item like Citrus Berry, or if you have Grassy Terrain and Black Sludge, or just like in general. Helping Toxapex stick around is like pretty good in general, especially if your opponent is physical. Like Crocodile Toxapex is a pretty good physical countering combination because Toxapex weak to like electric, resist electric, weak to psychic, resist psychic, and also just like benefiting from Intimidate, helping Toxapex stay around, helping Toxapex use Scald and Sludge Bomb and Toxic and all this stuff is very useful. Toxapex can also support Crocodile with Wide Guard if they have Tapu Koko, and can protect from Dazzling Gleams. And lastly, I've talked a lot about Tapu Bulu. This is a set taken from my guide on Tapu Bulu. If you're interested in learning more about that, make sure you check out the video. This is a guide on how to use Tapu Bulu and a bunch of different Tapu Bulu sets. I really do recommend Tapu Bulu with Toxapex because they pair very well together, in my opinion. I've talked a lot about why, so I won't go super in depth there. But in terms of like bulky Pokemon that's sticking around, like to stick around, I think Tapu Bulu is another really good choice. And also like resist ground, weakens Earthquake, resist electric. Is weak to poison, but it doesn't matter because Toxapex is good versus poison types. So overall, pretty good synergy between those two. Yes, and weakens both like Tapu Koko and Tapu Lele's stab terrain boosted attacks with its by using its Grassy Surge. So I think that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up. I'm actually almost, the reason this video is going up so late today is because I wasn't sure which Pokemon I wanted to do. Also, I slept in like super late. I slept in so late, but mostly I didn't know what Pokemon I wanted to do. So if you have suggestions, make sure you leave them in the comments down below because I'm really kind of at a loss for what to cover next. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again.